Small introduction from our side. I'm Koert. I'm the founder of Van Express and Blog. We are operators of 3.5 ton vans, 7.5 ton solos, and FTLs. I'm a Dutchman. I'm living in the Czech Republic. I have about 25 years plus logistics experience in Europe, but also in the Middle East and Africa. So what will we cover today? Of course, as I just mentioned earlier, is the legislations, how enforcement will work in practice, real operational consequences, and we also have created 2 case studies to show the direct impact of the new legislations as of July 2026. So the current situation, there's about 3.1 million light commercial vehicles and the so-called vans, and they operate across Europe. For years, our vans and the so-called light commercial vehicles operated on a very simple, easy rules. No tacho requirements, fewer driver hour restrictions, lower enforcement visibility, and a minimal administrative burden. So what's going to change in July is actually a lot, because the tacho is going to be extended from the FTLs and the solos also to the light commercial vehicles over 2.5 ton operational who are operating internationally. So vans must be compliant the same as trucks are as of above 3.5 ton. Also, there's social rule obligation, meaning that the driver is being protected by the European Union. So in this new reality, there is AI supportive enforcement. They are replacing random roadside checks. There's a remote DSRC screening that identifies vehicles before they stop. That's data-driven safety and labor reforms. And they are linking the transport to the worker protection. So it's the social part, what is very important, what is implemented as of July 2026, which is protecting the driver at any state in the European Union. What we as operators must change and must inform our clients about is that when you run legally compliant routes, it's not just fast routes. Yeah? We need to attract and retain drivers by offering them safer, structured working conditions. We need to prove reliability using verifiable compliance data, and we don't give only just promises. Because everything is checked, they can check everything. And the price service transparency to reflect true operational and compliance cost. Logistics is a high accountable industry, and we are currently measured in data and safety standards. To adopt for carriers, it's important that we adopt as early as possible. We started to adopt late 2025. And why are we need to adopt? Because we need to inform our clients, our subcontractors, what is expected of them. And the sooner you adopt, the earlier your client knows he can count on you. You're going to test. You're going to inform them straight away what the changes are. If you adopt late, you have a possible non-compliant risk. There might be a business disruption, and it might disturb the business for your client. And if they work with express deliveries or just in time, that becomes an issue. So therefore, we recommend to carriers, to all our carriers, to all our colleagues in the market, adopt. Please change your system. You have to, because the legislations are seriously being monitored by all the states, and some states even more intense than others. The industries what will be affected the most are e-commerce and the automotive spare parts. They have very high impact. E-commerce has a next day cross-border injections. Spare parts for automotive are just working just in time. Then we have the pharmaceutical and the medical supply. They're high impacts. Manufacturing components, also just in time, but 8 to 12 hours components. Then we are talking about the medium food and beverage distribution, construction materials, and retail. Any business relying on speed, urgency, cross-border, and van movements will feel the impact. Why these industries are affected first? Because light commercial vehicles are have become preferred tool to bypass heavy good vehicles restrictions. Um, we have avoided congestion and delays. Uh, we move high value or time critical goods and maintain flexible in tight delivery windows. The scale of impact of these vans, of these changes, legislations, will be between 1.5 and 2 million vans will be directly or indirectly impacted by these changes. Out of these 3.1, we foresee that 2 million vans, 1.5 between 2 million vans, are directly impacted across whole Europe. So the enforcement will be faster and way more precise. So traditional road checks are being replaced by automated border crossing. So there is automated, they record with the Smart Tacho. Smart Tacho 2 is the new device we need to have and provide instant jurisdiction visibility. Remote DSRC, pre-check, identify risk vehicles before inspection points. So the authorities know already what you're doing. They can remotely connect to your tacho via telematics. And the driver card and vehicle data cross needs to be matching. At the moment they stop you and your driver card is not matching with the vehicle card, there is a red flag immediately. And the infringement history is being tracked. It will track not only in one nation, but across the EU. The data is shared across the EU. The high enforcement countries, or how to say, those who want to be best in class, Germany, France, and of course the Netherlands, Belgium, Italy, and Austria. They have committed to rigorous enforcement instantly. They have all the remote software to check and enforce all the laws. So, of course, other countries will do this as well, but these countries have committed to it already. And this is where the majority of the corridors of express goods currently is. The new regulations, they combine three existing EU laws, and this is applying to us, to our vans. Vans and light commercial vehicles are performing international transport. We will finally fall under the same social rule as trucks. And the social rule is the labor law, which is now not only local, but it's international. So the tachograph activates this full social framework, and the working times are documented. The driver needs to post in the IMI. The cabotage cooling off periods are mandatory, and penalties for planning violations are being applicable. And I know everything what I'm saying is about penalties or about how we're going to apply it. And this is when I discuss these things with the European Union, the only thing what we heard and what we saw is the finger of this, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, you need to do that. If we go back, we think like be be compliant. If you are compliant, your work is still remaining, and you can still deliver your goods in time. But you just need to be compliant with the new law as of 2026, July 2026, because the consequences are high. They will start banning. Brussels had a clear statement. The movement of goods can no longer be separated from the protection of the workers. So if we are not compliant, they will basically either stop you from operating on certain lanes, they can even take away your license and your reputation to your customers, but to your workers, to everybody is is being damaged. So the three core regulations of what we're going to change. There's regulation 561 out of 2006. So the driver rest times rules. Then the tacho rule of data recording. And then the reform extending to the light commercial vehicles. That's the rule. That's the as of 2020, that rule was established to go live in 2026. So the driving rest rules. This regulation defines the maximum driving times. We have to go for mandatory breaks, daily and weekly rest. And what is now changing in 2026? These rules now apply to vans in international transport. So when you are a German carrier and you operate only in Germany, this rule is not applicable. But the moment you go cross-border, the rule is applicable. Driving breaks and rest are no longer a flexible decision. Your ops team needs to plan for you the right routes where they can legally take a rest. Because I will show you later on how long a driver can drive before he needs to take a rest. It's all the same compliance as with FTLs. In regards to the tachographs, this regulation governs that the installation and use of tachos, driver and company cards are required, data security, the downloads and calibration, and how the enforcement access of data and the anti-tampering standards. And what is changing is the Smart Tacho 2 becomes mandatory in scope for vans. The Smart Tacho 2 is I will discuss this later on in this webinar, is a tacho created especially for this new project from the European Union. And it is, the tacho is readable by authorities remotely. So he doesn't need to be stopped. We can remotely check, they can remotely check how long the driver has been driven. Did he follow the rest and resting times? And they don't need to stop you anymore. So it's becoming a little big brother for the 3.5-ton industry. So the border crossings are locked automatically, and enforcement can pre-check vehicles also remotely. And then a mobility package, what was implemented in 2020. So this regulation governs the posting of the driver obligations, cabotage limitations and cooling off periods, and fair competition enforcement across borders. This basically means that the vans can no longer be used to bypass the trucking rules, the drivers become professionals on the European law, and planning becomes a regulated function. Enforcement becomes way easier. Data is available at all the times. Before, we as van drivers or van driver operators, we could drive whenever we wanted, how long we wanted. Yeah, and sometimes you gave your driver an extra can of Red Bull to drive half an hour or an hour longer. This is not there anymore. We have to be compliant. Yeah, we cannot hide it anymore. So the practical consequences for operators. So from 2026 onwards, what drivers do is recorded. What planners plan is verifiable, but what companies promise is auditable. So most issues will also not come from the drivers. They will come from unrealistic routes, tight delivery promises, poorly managed subcontractors, or last minute operational pressure. So the driver needs to have a very good relation with his back office. They need to get proper planning. He should not go over the planning, and he should also push back at the moment he thinks he needs to stop. So coming back is why this early preparation changes everything, because we need to redesign the routes before enforcement. We need to train the drivers before pressure is building. We need to test the routes. Is what we are promising, is that possible? And then we need to communicate everything to our customers and our clients, because they need to be aware that there might be either a delay or there might be a cost impact. So the posting of workers, that is the social part of this whole change, is an HR planning and compliance issue. Posting of workers becomes enforceable through the Tacho data and border logs. So when a driver temporarily works in another European country, or when he performs a cross-border transport or cabotage. So the operator should align always the routes with the posting rules. Keep posting declarations 100% up to date. Because everything, unfortunately, is enforceable. There is a 100% change in operating for us. That is why we stress to everybody to start changing and updating your systems and optimizing what you're doing earlier than later. So the posting of these workers in the platform IMI, the cross-border drivers must be declared in the portal. There must be a digital declaration. He must always have his documents on board in regards to this. He needs to have payment records from his employer and a proof of working conditions. When EMI non-compliance failure leads, then we will have fines, and these fines are huge. They're huge. We are excluded from long-term operations, and we are damaging our reputation. And worst case scenario, there will be a vehicle immobilization. So the tacho and the worker and the posting of workers is all in one, very important. So these rules are the same restrictions. There's the same restrictions are for the heavy good vehicles are now applying for the light commercial vehicles, for the so-called vans. Yeah? It is applicable on cross-border cabotage limits, cooling off periods are enforced, domestic deliveries linked to international missions, and we can no more rotate vans to avoid restrictions. The cabotage violations usually happen because dispatches keep on pushing extra jobs. They think they might have something extra. And usually, if you have another hour on your tacho, he is, okay, let's pick up something. Let's do something. And then you will see he gets stuck in traffic and he goes over the tacho. So don't push it. Please don't push it. Of course, your productivity goes down. And I will show that later also in some of the business cases. But the drivers are under pressure to stay productive. Yeah, but please don't push them. There's no clear visibility of the cabotage limits at the moment, and that will come. And if that comes, it's fully traceable, and they will give you penalties. And with the penalties come delays, and the delays they impact also your customer. Documents the carrier of the driver must carry with him at any given time. Of course, vehicle registration and his insurance and the cargo documentation. But then he needs to carry with him the calibration proof of Smart Tacho 2, operator documents, EMI posting, the documents, and a valid driver card for his Tacho. That's the minimum, bare minimum what he needs to, and of course his driver's license, because otherwise it's going to be kind of a problem. So the enforcement powers and penalties. Here, nicely in yellow or in gold, how we say it, there is no grace period. Counties have invested in enforcement and in infrastructure. 2026 will not be a gradual ramp up, it will be a turning point. So the authorities now have real time DSRC screening. They have a 28-day tacho data review. They have cross checking the driver cards with the vehicles, IME validation, and rest time violations review. Again, the penalties, if we are not compliant, I will stress it again and again. The penalties are huge. And that can even go to vehicle immobilization. But if you lose your contract with your customer, it's even worse. That's your bread and butter. So be compliant. Here is our biggest friend, the Smart Tacho. The Smart Tacho, this is the device what the carriers need to start using. That's this central technology enabling enforcement, integrated compliance device connecting the driver, the vehicles, the operators, but also the authorities. These four, these four have all access to the Tacho. The Smart Tacho core capabilities are that it is GNSS positioning, that is satellite-based positioning, satellite-based positioning for border crossing, secure ITS interfaces, DSRC short-range remote enforcement, automatic border crossing logs every 3 hours, advanced anti-tampering technology, and mandatory calibration by approved workshops. Only approved workshops are able to install and calibrate these smart tachos. 4 cards are accessible. There's a driver card, a company card, a workshop card for the calibration, and a control card for the enforcement by the inspections. Why do these cards matter? Because it creates a chain of custody for the compliant data, prevents unauthorized access, ensures the calibration is well done and well documented. It protects operators during the checks, and it forms evidence framework for the enforcement. The social rule is now activated, and it comes also mandatory with the Smart Tacho 2. So the documented breaks and the rest periods are being monitored for the social rules via the Smart Tacho, the 28-day data visibility during the checks. And this is also, in these 28 days, they can monitor your resting. They can check everything. They can check your 4.5-hour drive. They can check your 11-hour rest. They can check everything. And there's zero tolerance for daily and weekly excesses. The daily driving limit. Now, for those who have FTLs, they know what is the daily driving limit of a driver. For those who do not have it, previously we were allowed to drive, well, until July, we are allowed to drive as long as we want, unofficially. But of course, we do need to protect our drivers and we need to be smart in what we're doing. But now this has been limited. Yeah, so it has been limited to 9 hours, and twice a week we can drive up to 10 hours. So there's a mandatory break. After 4.5 hours, you need to take 45 minutes mandatory break. You can also split it. So 2 hours, 15 minutes, and 2.5 hours, 30 minutes. And then you can keep on driving for another 4.5 hours. So after each 4.5-hour drive, there is a mandatory break. There's a weekly limit of 56 hours. You can drive twice a week, 10 hours, and 4 times a week you can drive 9 hours. If you do 2 consecutive weeks, the maximum driving time is 56 plus 34 makes it up to 90 hours. Then we have the rest time. We have an 11-hour mandatory rest after a 9-hour drive. The 9-hour drive, so the driver can work 13 hours, but out of these 13 hours, he can only drive 9. So the rest is for his administration or loading or whatever he wants to do, as long as he doesn't drive. After, he can rest 11 hours, so he comes to his 24 hours. And then he needs to have a regular weekly, one-time 45 hours uninterrupted rest. So what changes internally for this is that our administration in our back office, HR, needs to create different contracts with working time and working rules. Then we created this for our drivers. We saw that if you want to be compliant, you need to have everything optimized. So we had to recreate new contracts. Overtime need to be calculated, the payroll efficiency, because the driver needs to take it with him. The scheduling software, we had to change that, including the resting times. We need to find out where the drivers could rest. Where is it safe to rest? What is the cost of resting? So all these things we had to do. And at the moment you start doing this at the last minute, you will be not compliant, because you will find out that there's just more than saying to your driver, but as of now, you can only drive 9 hours a day, and that's it. No, it's not like that. There's way more behind it, because you have a responsibility towards your customer as well. You have a responsibility towards your driver. You need to take care that you show respect to both of them. So operationally, the routes preparation, the cross-border lines must be reviewed for, as I told you, the brake-compliant and safe parking points, border DSRC enforcement clusters, and Smart Tachograph. Now, we're going to have some cost. The cost to these Smart Tachos is not nothing. And depending, the later you install it, the more costly it is. And also where you buy it. If you buy it, some countries are cheaper. So we did the research over a couple of countries and we found the variation, and there's 100% price difference in it. So we have the hardware plus installation between 12 and 2,400 euros. There are software licenses which come with this, but needs to be connected to your hardware. And then between 10 and 25 euros per month per vehicle. The training of your driver costs around 300 to 700. This is the loss of productivity, of course, as well, but also the cost of the training. Yeah, so we had a third party coming by, and there was some cost involved, plus the loss of productivity of your driver. For us, it was between 300 to 700 euros. And then your efficiency shift. So initially, you drop in your efficiency because you need to find out and you need to figure out how this all is working. So temporarily, you lose productivity, but later you gain it again. Because at the moment, you're an early adopter. And when you start going live in July with all of this, and the half of it is not compliant or not willing to be compliant, the business will shift positively in your direction. As I stressed out before, be compliant. When we spoke to the European Union, they foresee they will stop. They will stop over 1 million vans due to failure to comply with the new regulations after the 1st of July. So, meaning they will basically give them a penalty, and they will make it very clear that the smart tacho needs to be installed in their vehicle. Yeah, so innovators have already installed it, and early adopters full retrofit planning in early 2026, which is now till March. And then I think that the majority, because what I've heard so far from the market, we are switching now or we are switching a little bit later. We need to first speak to our customer. But be transparent to your customer. Because if you're late, your customer is going to face delays. Because if you want to do it as long as possible, as good as possible, you're not going to be compliant anymore. And I think we all want to be compliant to our customers because this is our bread and butter. Same as is for them, this is also for us. And if the rule is changing for us, we need to adopt. So the route classification with the impact levels. So the short cross-border routes, 300 kilometers or less, has barely any impact. Medium impact, 400 to 700. Also, we can still do that as it is. But high frequency European corridors, there you'll be checked. They will be checked nonstop. And as you saw, the cluster in Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, and France, they have a very high impact level of security checks. We have created some practical business cases, what we would like to share with you. And we have one in the automotive and one in the e-commerce cross-border express. The automotive just-in-time part delivery. Example what we have given is for a company with 45 light commercial vehicles. The route is from Wolfsburg to Spain, Barcelona. It's 1,700 kilometers. The cargo is ICUs, turbochargers. The client is a tier one automotive supplier, and they're serving the Seat Volkswagen Group in Barcelona plant. The runs are 7 times a week, and the operation is 24/7. The service promise is 17 hours door-to-door express with a van, 3.5 ton. So the typical operation, we collect at 1400. The SEAT plans, they will be there at 7 o'clock next day. So the total transit time is 17 hours. That is the pre-July scenario. Single driver, 16, 17 hours, route standard. If we push it, we can even do less, but we don't want that. I think none of us want this in this call because we still want our driver to take his rest. But the route goes from A2, A7, A49, Germany, France, and Spain. But there's no mandatory breaks unless he has a fatigue bladder, but for sure, the driver will take a break. Yeah. The documentation, what he needs, delivery note, basic CMR, no tachograph. Why did it work? Because a single driver completes the entire run in a shift. Maximum flexibility to compensate for traffic delays. We can push, meet the production timelines, night drive, traveling overnight, less traffic, faster average speed, no enforcement for light commercial vehicles. The production line receives the components exactly when it's needed, 7 o'clock when the next shift starting. So the real world pressure, if we know the operations of and the production of SEAT has a production of 3.2 million euros per hour. The stock buffer is only 3 to 5 hours through just-in-time philosophy. Late delivery is immediately production stop. The financial penalty is then 18,000 euros per hour plus delay of potential contract termination. And then the cascade effect is the impacts of Volkswagen Group plants across Spain and Portugal. And the reputation risk is tier one suppliers, the reliability score with the entire Volkswagen Group. So it has an impact. And if we are not compliant anymore, it will damage not only your reputation, it will damage multiples. So the new legal reality under the EU regulation 561/206 after July 2026. So mandatory requirements, 4.5 hours driving, 45 minutes break required, maximum daily driving 9 hours, extendable to 10 hours twice a week. After reaching 9 hours, you must non-stop for 11 hours take a resting period. The minimum rest of 11 hours between between these two shifts. All data is recorded in the Smart Tachograph, including the border crossing. So now the reality. So he departs at 2 o'clock from Wolfsburg. He drives 4.5 hours and he makes a stop in Aachen. There's a mandatory break of 45 minutes. He resumes driving and he drives another 4.5 hours until he reaches his 9-hour break and he reaches Lyon. He needs to wait for another 11 hours. He needs to take a rest, mandatory rest, before he resumes driving to Barcelona. He drives another 4.5 hours to the direction of Girona. There he can take a break of 45 minutes. He resumes his final leg for 1 hour. And he drives, at a single driver, he drives for 27 hours. This 27-hour shift instead of a little bit less. So the impact analysis, so the production impact, the parts arrive at 1700 and not at 7. There's a 10-hour delay. Cost of 10 hours times 18,000 is 180,000 penalty plus production value lost. Cascade impact is that SEAT Barcelona has a 10 hours of stop production. Downstream to the Volkswagen plants, the part shortage 24 hours, customer delivery commitments are missed, a potential loss of a tier 1 supplier with a preferred status. Conclusion, single driver model does not work for this route. Absolutely not. So what is one of the options? There's multiple, but we are just highlighting one. What an option is. We're going to do it with 2 drivers. Yeah. So we have a driver going from Wolfsburg to Lyon. He departs at 2. He takes his break in Aachen. He takes and he drives. He's driving and he arrives in the relay point in Lyon at 11:45. He drove 8.5 hours. There he comes. He hands over the vehicle. The vehicle will be inspected. The seal is verified. Everything. The temperature is checked. The tachocard is swapped. Documentation transfer. The safety or security protocol is done as per instructions of the manufacturer. And then he departs Lyon. He drives 4.5 hours to the Girona. He has a mandatory rest at a secure rest area close to Girona and Barcelona. He resumes driving and he arrives at Barcelona in the SEAT plant at 7 o'clock. So it's the same as before, but we have additional cost of a driver and of a relay. Plus we have secure resting places. It will all, I will show you later on what the financial impact will be. So the impact analysis is production impact. The part arrives at exactly the same time as before. Yeah? You maintain the original delivery schedule, 0 impact on production, everything remains as it is. Full compliant. And of course, better driver safety and rest quality. So that's from a social perspective, that's very important. But also for the customer, it's important that they can still continue with your operating model. So operational impacts, 28 hours versus 70 hours, the so-called paradox, right? Before 17 hours continuous run, so the driver works 17 hours straight before he returns to Wolfsburg after 11-hour rest. The total cycle of 17 hours plus 11 hours of rest is he can do 6 runs per week. After 2026 July, after July 2026, the single driver attempting this route is going to be a little bit different. He has a total elapsed time of 27 hours. Plus his resting, he comes to 38.5. He can only do 4 to 5 runs per week. Fleet utilization analysis is before, as I said, one vehicle, one driver, 5 runs, 20 runs per month. After, one vehicle, one driver, 4 runs per week, 16 runs. The capacity loss is 20% with the same fleet. The solution of two-driver relay system maintains closer to the original capacity, but at a higher cost. So the SEAT Barcelona plant context, they create 280,000 vehicles annual. They have a 3-shift operation, 6 o'clock, 1400 and 2200. As mentioned before, they do 52 vehicles per hour. And each hour stopped, 52 vehicles are not produced. The ripple effect across 6 Volkswagen assembly plants. Financial impact 18,000 per hour direct, plus 40 to 65K cascade cost. Just-in-time precision, the parts buffer only 3 to 5 hours versus industry standards 8 to 12. The parking and security challenge we are having is that we need to find secure parking spots in France, in Aachen, Lyon, the relay area, and Girona. So the value of the van, the cargo on the van in this particular business case is 480,000 euros. So the most critical area, what we have seen and what we know of in this risk, is the break in Girona at 4:45 at night. The van needs to park there for 45 minutes, but there's organized gangs. They monitor automotive routes nonstop. Professional theft teams, they take 8 to 12 minutes to break in, disable GPS, and they completely disappear with your whole vehicle. And let's hope the driver is not in it then. But the actual statistics is that the cargo theft on the corridor of France and Spain, it increased between 2023 and 2025 with 58%. The average stolen automotive load was around 285. Recovery rate less than 12%. And the insurance deductible is typically 75 to 100K. So the average loss in theft, for instance, is 400,000. So we need to be very, very good in what we do, because these legal resting times, what we need to do, we need to make them also compliant on safe and secure resting areas. We have looked into the secure and the 3-layer security model. That, well, at least is how we think we should do it. Yeah? So pre-approved security parking network on all our lineals. What we're doing, where we have high value goods, you should create as a carrier, or you should advise as a shipper, where your carrier should stop. We mapped out locations with secure truck stops. They have 24/7 surveillance. They have transparameters with security guards and light and alarms. And the average cost is 60 euros, between 50 to 70. And it depends a little bit per night. But if you just need to stay for 45 minutes, you still are attached for that. So the frequency, every run requires 2 stops. So Aachen plus Girona. And we have then 90 runs for that. And it will cost us 5,400 euros per month. Before, I will give you a driver shift model, what the impact is as a carrier. Before, when you're having 45 vehicles, you had 45 drivers. One driver was completing the Wolfsburg to Barcelona and Barcelona to Wolfsburg. 17-hour shifts, 17, 18-hour shifts, home every 48 hours. No tacho enforcement, unlike commercial vehicles. Simple operation, average cost 36K for a carrier, for a driver. 36K is gross, there's a per diem, there's also bonuses, but we talk basically about the salary. Yeah, because the per diem and the bonuses remain as this, and this also as this. After July 2026, you have a single driver model. The single driver is no more legally possible for this route. We have to split the route in two compliant legs. The relay point needs to be introduced in Lyon, and we have a key group of drivers doing the leg between Germany and France, and we have a key group of drivers doing the leg between France and Spain. There's a new cost structure. And the drivers in the German-French wage levels, they get around 36. And then you have the Lyon-Barcelona. The French-Spanish wages are a little bit lower. But we are requiring two coordinators, the relay coordinators. In Lyon, it's costing you 76K per year. Per month, sorry. 76K per month. Sorry, per year. My mistake. And the rent for the Lyon facility is 48K per year. And we use 50% for this lane. So 24K is applicable on this facility for this lane. Of course, the more lanes you will get via this facility, the cheaper this becomes. But that is, if you work along the way, you can also offer this towards your customers. So because then your costs will go down, you still have the facility, and these costs will break down. Also, the same is for your relay coordinators. The more business goes through their hands, the lower the cost. Now it's adding up, but at the moment you are getting more volumes going through these facilities and through these people's hands, the lower the cost will come per unit. So we need two driver cards instead of one. The coordination technology has cost us 28K per year, and additional security charges is 14,000 euros per month. Additional cost for us, 201 euros per year. Total impact from before and after. So driver was before 36 and is now becoming 41K. That is including security, including additional systems, and additional workforce. So there is an increase of 12%. So the commercial reality is that the problem nobody budgeted for is that the new EU rules, as I said, is 12% cost, at least will be there. And if we are able to put more volumes via these hands and facilities, then it might become less. But this is a reality because we need more people. We need more time to deliver. And if we want the same time to deliver, we need to do it with more people and we need to be smart. But there are several ways possible to be still compliant. But there are extra costs involved. But as I said, all pricing becomes structurally impossible. Compliance turns a profitable route into a guaranteed loss. So the solution, price risk, no distance, build compliance into the offer, and tier services by delivery critical. So we need to build the compliance into the offer, no matter what business it is. Now we have a e-commerce cross-border business case. This is about 180 light commercial vehicles. The route is from the Netherlands, Amsterdam to Lyon. It's 950 kilometers. It's e-commerce, it's parcels, it's fashion, electronics goods. The clients are major e-commerce platforms, Amazon style. And the frequency is 6 days a week. And the service promise is delivered 1500 next day, leaving Amsterdam at 10 o'clock, if I'm correct. Yes. So the typical operation departs at 10 o'clock from Amsterdam and it arrives at 9 o'clock in the morning. So 11-hour continuous driving. The route can be shorter, but it's more or less 8 hours, more or less a 10 to 11 hours drive. There's no mandatory breaks again. If you want to stop, you have to stop. If you don't need to stop, you don't have to stop. And the documentation, CMR, partial manifest only, and again, no tacho. So this is scenario pre July. So why did it work? Because a single driver competes again, same as with the just in time. The single driver completes the entire run in one shift. Maximum flexibility. Next morning delivery across Europe, and a perfect overnight hub-to-hub distribution. Real-world e-commerce service pressure. So the customer expectation, same day or next day delivery became the standard. So the platform as late as 95% on time delivered requires, and you have penalties if you don't meet that. So competitive pressure, multiple operators on the same route, margin challenge. E-commerce logistics already operates in a lower margin between 3 to 8, and volume volatility. Peak seasons require surge capacity. Penalty cost 15 to 25 per failed delivery. So there is reputation at stake. So the scenario after July 2026. So the new legal reality. So after 4.5 hours driving, we need the 4.5 hours. We need a 45-minute break. Maximum driving, extendable to 10 hours only twice a week, as I earlier discussed. But after 9 hours, he must stop for 11 hours. And the minimum day rest is 11. So all the data is automatically recorded again in the Smart Tacho with the GNSS board logging. The reality is with a single driver, it's not possible. He departs from Amsterdam. He makes a break in Metz of 45 minutes. He resumes driving at 3:15. He reaches his total limit at 7:45, close to Saint-Amour, and he cannot drive for the next 11 hours. Well, he only has to drive 1 hour and 15 minutes to Lyon. So you, as a carrier, you need to plan not only the routes, but you also need to plan the tacho for your second driver. Because if he only is going to drive 1 hour and 25 minutes or 15 minutes, then he has a minimum, he has a very low capacity of his tacho is being used properly. So you need to take care that after arriving in Lyon, he will have another job waiting for him as soon as possible. So that's the planning for internally is very important here. But anyway, one single driver, it's not possible. The impact analysis, the production impact parcels arrive at 20 instead of 7:30. It's 12.5 hours late due to this. There's massive penalties and it destroys the business model for this route. So we're not going to do it with one driver. We have to do it with two drivers in this case. So in this case, we have a relay point again. The driver drives from Amsterdam to Saint-Amour. He drives 4.5 hours to Metz. He takes his mandatory break. He resumes driving. He arrives at Saint-Amour, and there is a relay point, and there the other driver comes. He hands over the van with the parcels to the other driver. The driver inspects it. He scans the documents because he will, if he gets scanned documents from the 3PL, he will take that along. He completes the security protocol and he drives down from Saint-Amour to Lyon, 2 hours driving. Then he's compliant, he does no break needed, and he arrives on time. There's a two-leg relay solution. But bear in mind, the second driver only uses 2 hours of his tacho. So he still has a 7-hour left. So your operational team needs to plan these 7 hours. But that is not important for the customer, but that is important for the carrier. That you move and that you plan your drivers accordingly. So the impact analysis here is that the production impact, the parcel arrive at 10 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock is 1 hour later. Maybe we can leave 1 hour earlier and Amsterdam be compliant if that's an if that's a possibility. But reality checks misses some early morning final mile deliveries, but everything is still compliant for the rest. Yeah. So business decision, you adjust a delivery promise the same day instead of next morning. So the capacity impact. Before, this driver could do 6 runs per week and 24 per month. And with 180 vans in this business case, you could do 4,320 deliveries per month. If you go to a single business model now on this, you can only do 20 runs per week. And with 180 vans, you could do 3,600 deliveries per month. It's capacity loss of 16%. So on top of the extra cost, you also have a capacity loss. So after the two-legged relay, more complex coordination, but you still have the 90% original of the original capacity. It requires relay infrastructure for you to invest in and higher operational costs, but the service promise is preserved. And I think that is, to your customer, the most important of all. So the parking security challenge, but last few things we would like to inform you about is that the e-commerce theft problem, cargo has usually between 800 to, depending on the size of the parcel, of course, but an average between 850 and 1,200 parcels. The average load value, what we have seen, is between 85,000 and 120,000. But there is a break to be made between around 230 and the Allan border. Yeah? The reality is that the e-commerce cargo theft has increased as well, with 48% in Belgium and the Belgian-French corridor. The average stolen load was 92,000 euros. The recovery rate was 15%. So the platform penalties for lost parcels is then also 35 to 50. So one theft incident has around 150K total losses. The security solution, the cost of security and safety here as well. So the pre-approved truck stop only in Metz is mandatory with the mandatory brake. That's around 40 euro per stop. That's 800 euros per month for 20 runs. So the second, what's important is the GPS tracking, the geofence alerts. And the cost for that is 28 euros per vehicle per month. Then we have a three-layer. The third layer is insurance. And extra 85 euros per van per month. And that brings you over per run extra cost around 46 euros on this lane only. So there is additional cost applicable for the safety and security of this lane because we need to stop in secure and safe areas. The operational impact workforce. So before we had a single driver model, and after we have Amsterdam-based drivers, French-based drivers, and we have relay coordinators. The relay facility is 40K per year, the security is 10K, and the technology and the coordination is 3K per year extra. There is, on certain lanes, there is tons of extra cost applicable. So the commercial challenge, operating costs increase per movement. I think we have now all seen that, and also the delivery time is still increasing by just a little bit, but it's still increasing. The service promise has a minimum impact, but cannot just absorb the cost. We cannot do that. So the solution, pricing adjusted to reflect regularity in reality. The service levels redesigned per tiered option. Clear communication with platforms. All competitors face the same constraints. Everybody. So it's not only me towards you, but it's also him towards them. So the key point is price moved because risk moved and service has changed. The total impact summary. So before we were driving 9.5 hours, next morning delivery, single driver model. And after it's 10 hour plus 1 hour service next day, adjusted promise. So two driver relay model, price increased to reflect compliance. So for two drivers, there's simply a price increase, and we just need to see what the frequency of the trip is and to make it realistically. But there is an impact if you want to remain the same service level. So the net business result, what has changed? There's a pricing reset. The compliance eliminates violations. The reliability goes up, and the speed it's 1 hour slower. So bottom line, the business model becomes sustainable under enforcement, though, but the service promise needs to be adjusted. Pricing alignment with cost, infrastructure with investment, and client and contract negotiations. So this improvement was not driven by just efficiency alone. It has been done by redesigning and pricing, service tiers, and client negotiations. Sit with your customers, discuss and talk about expectations, see what the flexibilities are, because and do it preferably earlier than later, because we cannot say I can promise you till July this, and after July I'm going to promise you that. No, let's start working on what you're going to promise now for the rest of the year. Thank you for joining today. Here you can scan the QR code, and there you can download the white paper or the book, say as such. The password is my full and first and last name, and you can download it for free. We have left the Q&A open. So what we're going to do is we're going to gather all the questions what came through the Q&A, and everybody who has registered, we're going to return to everybody the answers so that we can share the questions, the concerns, and the answers with everybody.